that's going to be joining us. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Hi. Hello, ladies. Hi, Tasha. Hi, Jay.
Hey, look at you at work early today. You know we got to film later today for Shoot Your Shot.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'm excited.
I know. Welcome. So listen, you guys know Sean Davy Way. If you don't, get to know him, all right? He has covered Diddy extensively for years. You've done docuseries on surviving Diddy before this whole thing shook up and became a federal case. What made you, first of all, welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay. What made you pursue and put together a surviving Diddy docuseries?
He's gross. That's where we're going to start off there. With Diddy.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer in where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay. So I understand what public opinion, everybody wants Diddy to go down. Nobody wants Diddy to go down more than myself because of the extensive research that I've done, reading old articles and old interviews from people that have had lawsuits that didn't go nowhere, from the people that's pointed at him red-handed and said he did that back in the day at the club. I was there, I saw him, and all of their voices were, to me, unheard. So that is what inspired me to do it. Because again, I just saw so much evidence proving that these people are telling the truth. Like there's no lies being said here. So once I started, it was like I couldn't stop, and I just kept going and going. Is that me?
How many episodes do you have right now?
About 8.
Damn. And they're all an hour or 2 or maybe 3.
The first one that I did almost has 2 million views. So
that's how deep it was. That's how deep he got. Them things was thanging. Have they picked back up since we lost him for a second. I believe too, because it's raining too a lot in other parts of the country. He's gonna be right back because I do want to talk to him. Who do we have a caller backstage? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. We have a caller backstage. We're gonna let them give their account while we wait for Sean to get back. And so do you have a question or a comment? What's your name?
Well, my thing is a comment, and I think it's more about Diddy's wrong.
What's your name? First of all, what's your name?
Oh, my name is JB out of Dallas.
Okay, shout out to JD out of Dallas. Now, Diddy is wrong. Go ahead.
Now, Diddy is wrong for what he done. And that is put his hands on women. That's a coward, period. You can't defend that. But at the same time, when it comes to charges like distribution, everybody in the neighborhood is distributing when they smoke a blunt. When you puff it and you hand it to the next person, when someone with a crack habit gets a 20-piece and he gives the next dope fiend a little crumb just to put on their pipe, everyone's handing someone some type of narcotic or something, and that don't mean that they're distributing it. They're just handing it to them. I don't believe Diddy ever sold it to them for $10 or $20 or sold kilos. So he never distributed anything. What he did was gave people that had a free will and a free choice to have whatever habit that they have, to be able to have whatever they want, just like McDonald's. You can have it your way. If you do this, you do this. If you drink this, you drink this. You already had this habit before you came to me. But now you want me to rot in jail for something that you will be continuing to do even while I'm in jail, just with someone else or either by yourself. So why should I go to jail for something that you were already doing? When I beat you, I'm wrong for beating you. But you, as a grown woman that was beaten, left me. But you came back into my presence for what I give you. So why am I wrong for you wanting to continue to be around me, and you know how I am? So I'm wrong. I should be in jail right now for domestic violence. That's the most that I could see Diddy doing. Now, I believe his karma from the things that he done that was not right to other people has put him in this position to, even if he is acquitted, he will be in big $1 million mansions by himself, because I believe the lifestyle that he once had would never be the same. And this world is so crazy that I think even if he is found to be innocent and come home, people will continue to still be around Diddy, party with him, do what he wants to do, because those are the type people that Diddy connects to, because they like to be connected with the people that they are. Birds of a feather flock together. So after all this comes around, there still will be women that's willing to sleep with him. There's men, there'll still be people that want to do drugs with him. So what he's doing, I don't see that as being a crime of this sort where he should be facing federal time at all.
Okay, well, thank you so much for calling in. That was well detailed, and he said something that I personally feel. And so, for you guys are saying Diddy, you team Diddy. Each one of them went back, including Gina. I talked to Gina. Gina called me the day the feds had brought the case and was asking me could she do a second interview, but for this interview she wanted to be paid. I said, Gina, you know I don't pay. But she was adamant. I need to be paid, Tasha. Can you send? I said, no, Gina, the only thing we do is take care of your flight and your hotel and some food. And if you need a babysitter for that baby, because Lord knows she take that baby everywhere. That baby done seen her get kicked down the stairs. That baby probably done seen her do freak offs. That baby ain't missed a beat. Okay, Sean, come on now, fix your Wi-Fi. Let's go. Let's go, Sean. Call them people and pay the bills. Listen, I need them deeds. But I talked to Gina, and so they said they found Gina right after the case. Gina ain't going to work because Gina's always been Team Diddy.
Mm-hmm. Even today with TMZ catching her in the parking lot, they asked her directly. They said, because she mysteriously appears after the case is over. They said, well, do you think he's like a danger, to society? She's like, no, I don't think he's a danger to society. They said, well, do you feel in danger? Like if he were to get off, do you think that your life would be threatened? She was like, oh, absolutely not. I mean, the tune that she's singing is night and day from your record-breaking interview that
nobody believed. But the reason Gina sat with me and I asked her, I said, why are you here, Gina? Mm-hmm. She said, because Diddy cut me off. I said, well, what you mean cut you off? She said, he cut me off financially. He moved me from wherever she was from, okay? Mm-hmm. Gave her $5,000 a month, put it under the marketing budget, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's how she paid her bills. So when he cut her off, she wasn't mad that he beat her. She wasn't mad that he kicked babies out of her stomach. She wasn't mad that he was sleeping with Cassie or any other girl. She wasn't mad about any of that. She was mad because he cut her off financially. And guess what? After that interview, he called her. He sent a private jet. Matter of fact, he had his son call her. Sent her a private jet to pick her up from where she had did the interview from. I think we did that interview in Atlanta. So he sent the private jet to her to get her, brought her back, apologized, and upped her pay from $5,000 to $10,000, according to her. And she has been there ever since. And that's why you saw her pop up on the internet with Young Miami, fighting with Young Miami about I was here first. And then Young Miami was like, well, you a eater. How does she know that? Because they all get down together. This is how Diddy gets down. And by the way, somebody is circulating tapes on Lori Harvey.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. And I literally, I saw the image and I deleted it because I did not ask to receive this information. But apparently that's why she's been so quiet, according to sources.
Wait, are the videos with Diddy, allegedly of her and Diddy?
I don't know who she with. I just know that there's tapes of her. So was it Future taping her? Was it what's the little young actor name? The little Idris Elba. Who? Dancing Idris. Was it Diddy? Who got Steve Harvey's daughter allegedly in a tape? Is the question. The only person we knew around here that was taping shenanigans, and her hair looked like it had a lot of baby oil on it in the back, was Diddy. I said, oh no, absolutely not.
Well, I mean, like father, like son. Justin Combs was dating her too. So
yeah.
That's right.
Both dated her. And she tries to kind of pivot when people try to bring that up to her, but yeah.
Well, he dated Drea, the model. My holiness can be deleted. Basketball Wives Drea dated both the son and Diddy at the same time too.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, the pictures are online.
Wow.
But she got her legs wide open, breast open, and son right there, and Diddy right there. They both going in it. Yeah.
Wow.
And we're going to say allegedly in case it get too thick. But Sean, as you were saying.
So public opinion, I get with Diddy. A lot of people don't like him and they want him to pay for so many other sins that he has committed This is why when they do juries, they make sure that it's an unbiased approach, meaning that they don't know much about the person. It's not that they don't know them at all, but they just haven't been keeping up with the keep up. So when they do sit down and hear both sides, they can decide based off of usually preconceived notions. So with that being said, with people not necessarily agreeing with Diddy, but it's these charges. We do agree that Diddy is guilty of a lot of stuff when it comes to Tupac and allegedly Kim Porter and stuff, but that's public opinion, not what he's being tried for. What he's being tried for, and again, my opinion, I believe that the prosecution were more so worried about their conviction rate, than worrying about making sure that these charges stick and that he goes down. The African charge and the racketeering charge obviously are the two biggest ones that carry the highest prison sentence. So that's why I feel like they were gearing for those things. But just like Jay said earlier, in order for these RICO charges to go through, they have to prove that this criminal act happened with many people underneath his umbrella. We get that Diddy was the mastermind. Like, no one is knocking that point. It's proving that point is where the problem is going to come in, because you have to collect that evidence that you have against the other parties, his staff and other people, that they knew that this was going on. Again, if I'm your assistant and you're paying me to do certain things, and you tell me to go put candles and a bathtub full of beta oil and Astroglide, I'm just doing what you are commanding. What does that have to do with me being a part of a criminal enterprise? And I feel that that was the prosecution's job to differentiate that. And who knew that this was a criminal enterprise as they were doing these things, and who didn't. And I don't think they did a good job with that at all. I feel that they lacked in those areas. There's all types of holes in those stories. And I also agree with Jay when she stated earlier that Jane Doe was a terrible witness.
Terrible.
That she should have just been left completely out, just rock with Cassie, because Cassie, the longevity, the history that she has with him, the information that she came forward with. Again, they built this whole case surrounding what she wrote inside of a lawsuit. But then there's, error when it comes to that, because a lot of the things that Cassie stated in her lawsuit, she did not state in this trial. She did not.
And she kept going back even while she was still married, to say that, Diddy raped her when they went for a closure date, but then later on that night she gave him some pussy.
Yeah. And you could drop a pin when the prosecutor was doing the closing arguments, right? They had to kind of go through the summaries of each victim. So when they did Cassie, you could hear a pin drop when she said that, well, she was raped or assaulted. Sorry, no, this is YouTube. But then she went back. She
the same night.
Knowingly went back to have consensual relationships with him. And so what they did in the trial, and again, I'm not saying they did a good job of it, but the prosecutor tried to bring on a psychologist to explain to the jury why in anyone's right mind would they be sexually assaulted, be all these bad things that, Sean talks about in his series and things like that. Why would you go through all of that and knowingly keep returning? The way they tried to combat that was with a psychologist talking about, almost like Stockholm syndrome, or how victims react. The problem here is there's truly a price tag with all these women, right? And I think, as Tasha mentioned before, that is what drove them returning back more than anything. I'm not saying, because again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not saying some of the mental stuff didn't drive them back. Absolutely. But it was the price tag. For you to say Gina's, allegedly her money went up after your interview, for Jane Doe to still be receiving $10,000 a month for her rent to this day, and having her lawyer paid, which I don't know why
that a conflict of interest. So how can she
conflict of interest? I don't know why that was not brought up. The fact that she still has legal representation paid, she still has a home, all these things. It is the price tag, unfortunately, that drove these women back. And it's just crazy to me that, and I'm not saying any amount of money would make this okay, so let me just preface it with this. But $10,000, you were making that as the Fashion Nova mom. Remember she was originally the
Yeah.
Fashion Nova model, the person who we're alleging is Jane Doe. So I'm like, they paid a lot. Like, you were doing other things before him. And so I'm just like,
Because
why is $10,000 so attractive? To me, that's not a lot of money.
remember how she started eyeing him. Her best friend was fucking him. So when the best friend went and got married, that's when she moved in and pursued Diddy. She was targeting Diddy for his money, and she still gets it.
Right, but to me, again, I'm not saying sell
And
yourself for any
you in
amount,
your
but
30s. Ain't nobody, they flying you in. Ain't nobody dragging her down no hallway by her hair.
right,
Ain't nobody did that to her.
right. Yeah, I think, like I said, it was the price tag that drove these women. And, even when certain witnesses, even when they were describing some of the things that Jane talked about in the closing argument. So a little inside tea.
Yeah.
So what's her name? Is it Sarah? The one they call Pumpkin?
Uh-huh.
Is it Sarah? So
Yeah.
Sarah and Misa were in the audience, and every time they would talk about something that happened with Jane, they would kind of turn to each other and nod, like almost like they were maybe recalling some of the things going on. So it's not that we don't believe that none of this happened. This is not, they're not believable and things like that. The issue is, even if you are to be believed, if most of what you're telling me is consensual, then we have a problem with the case. The minute that's why they played those longer videos of the freak offs. They wanted to show how consensual it was. They showed all the consensual text messages and all sorts of things. And so I don't know. I just think the consent.
And let me jump in, and Sean, I'm gonna let you respond to that, but let me jump in. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
As a woman, sometimes we want to, sometimes we don't. Okay. Right? And then sometimes, even when we don't fuck, we understand the man that we love still wants to do it. And so we do it. Is that coercion? Is that rape? Or is that, you know what? Let me just open my legs. True, all I do is receive. I ain't got to do nothing but lay there, give him some, and be done with it.
I don't know if it's sexual assault, but it could be considered coercion when you look at the elements that they kept driving home in this case. So they said coercion as it relates to Jane Doe and Cassie are the following: the drugs, when he would hit them, when he would threaten to take money away. Even with Cassie, I mean, supposedly he would take away her laptop, her phone. He would take their items and their money away. So they're
sounded like a child that was on punishment.
Right. So they're saying to meet the elements of Cassie or Jane Doe being sex trafficked, they had to either through fraud, coercion, or force made to have sex across state lines. So you break down, well, what's the fraud? A male talked about the fraud, how he would lie to them. Okay. I don't think that's that strong, but whatever. That's the fraud. But the coercion is if you're drugging the people, if you're beating up on them. The 2016 Intercontinental video, they're claiming that was a freak off, and that is an example of her trying to leave and him physically forcing her to come back. I mean, let's be honest. If they did not have that tape, they wouldn't actually have much of a case, because that is the strongest example they had, again, of an alleged freak off that she was allegedly leaving and the kidnapping. But you know what's interesting, and I need to, because like I said, and I did say this from the beginning, I am not your lawyer. This is not legal advice, but we are discussing legal topics. But something that's interesting, and I gotta go back to a colleague and figure this out. Not male, but fatherhood. The guy that called it a few minutes ago said something that was interesting. Right before the closing arguments, or right after the closing argument. No, it was before the closing arguments. There was this thing like, they dropped charges. So they didn't actually drop charges. What they did was they dropped legal theories to support the RICO charge. So what I'm trying to figure out, according to the prosecutor's letter, they said that the jury didn't have to consider arson. They didn't have to consider arson or kidnapping. They took that away from RICO. So what I'm trying to figure out, Tasha, is why is it still on the instruction sheet? Maybe they printed
That's
the sheet.
what I was trying to figure out. Why is it still there?
I think it was a mistake, because literally there's a letter from the prosecutor that says again, this is jury instructions. Jury, when evaluating RICO in this case, you no longer have to consider the following things. And they said 3 things. They said you don't have to consider arson as it relates to the RICO, any allegations of arson, kidnapping, and they actually said aiding and abetting prostitution. Those were the 3 things they said. Again, as it relates to RICO, you don't have to consider those things anymore because
but you do have to consider the other things. So,
right. So I'm gonna have to find out. Maybe they may have printed out the sheet before. And just
well, to me, that's grounds for a possible, things that he could appeal on, or under the Rule 29 of them asking the judge to acquit altogether. So
right. I need to find out why
there's 2 ways they can go there.
Yeah, it shouldn't be on the sheet.
Sean, what do you want to add?
So to jump back to the Cassie going back after he allegedly, RAPED'd her, I don't feel like it's fair to leave out that their long-standing history. Now, I'm not going to go into traumas and all of that stuff because, again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't state if Cassie was going through any Stockholm or anything like that. But just due to the longevity of their relationship, whether she came in using him or not, she was underneath that spell. Diddy I've never encountered him before, but just watching how he moves and whatnot, there is a certain presence that he has that is very intimidating. So I can definitely see her returning to do something when you have your life is set up through this man at this point. So he controls everything that goes on with you. So in her mind, she may have been going back and forth like, did he just R-word me or did he not? Did he just R-word me or did he not? And then there's also being thrown in there that she was with Alex at the time. So was this just a ruse so that Alex didn't leave her because he found out or had a clue that she had been dealing with him still after this, as he comes in as the heroic, Captain Sava when it comes to Cassie, because a lot of people do look at Alex like that. It's like the hero of the story. He came and he swept her off her feet and married her and had a family and whatnot, got her out of this horrendous lifestyle. But at the same time, Alex worked for Diddy. Alex and Cassie met through Diddy. Cassie was cheating on Diddy with Alex. So at that point in time, when her still dealing with Diddy at that point, when she said that he R-worded her, were they still together? Because at that time with him, she was with Ryan at the beginning, she was technically cheating on Diddy with Ryan. Ryan was Diddy's trainer and also his son Justin's trainer for football. And it went from that to Diddy letting Ryan train Cassie as well. And then their relationship allegedly brewed off of that.
You mean Alex?
Yeah. Alex?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Alex and Cassie. So then it's like Alex kind of ran away with the plug when it came to Cassie because he was, that's how I look at it, he ran off with the plug. So at that point, was Cassie still with Diddy? So was she conflicted, at that point? Because she, in her eyes, like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be with you, because she's left multiple times. Even while dating Kid Cudi, she was leaving her boyfriend, Kid Cudi's house, to still go do FOs with Diddy. So again, we have to, all of that has to be added in there. We can't just say like, oh, well, you get R-worded by somebody and you come right back. Well, look at the hotel video. If somebody does that to most people, they probably wouldn't return. But she did. And that is, to me, an example of Cassie going through DV. And I have to add another point. Was Cassie ever, based off of the testimony, was she ever really his girlfriend? I heard, based off from what I'm getting from the transcripts and everything, I hear a pimp and a hoe.
Oh. That's
what I got from it. Again, being the main B, with pimps and whatnot, I've said this before, they are abusive towards their prostitutes, and whatnot, their escorts. They do all of the people that are working for the pimp usually wants to be at the top, of the totem pole. We've heard examples of her being jealous of Kim Porter on the stand, somebody that wasn't necessarily treated how she was. She was given the keys to the kingdom, and Cassie seemed as if she wanted those same set of keys, but Diddy was not offering it to her. So it seemed that at times she was desperate to make herself matter more. So again, all of those things have to be factored in. Was this even a relationship at this point when the same charges that they're trying to charge Diddy with, they have given Cassie immunity for? So you can't look at Diddy for being guilty and not look at Cassie the same way. We have to look at the charges Diddy has, not public opinion of all of these crazy outlandish things that he's done to people. We know Diddy needs to pay. We get that, but it has to be done properly. It has to be done the right way. So again, when it comes to Cassie and that situation, it is a horrible place to be put in, a horrible predicament to be put in when you do feel that you have been R-worded, because it's all up to you and your body. If your body is telling you this is not right, this is not something that you want, then to me, you are being violated. But if your body's telling you something else and you're just kind of unsure within that moment in time, then I guess it's still kind of like up to you, you know, to figure out what actually transpired. And she may still be confused by that, or she could have just been using that as a crutch within this case to make his charges seem more heinous. At the same time, you can look at it from both sides.
And thank you. Those were some good points. And I did want to add, because I forgot to add this major point when it came to Gina. So Gina calls me when the indictment comes down, and she's basically asking me to pay her. She said she wants to do a second interview, but I need you to pay me. I said, Gina, you know we don't pay. And then she was like, but I need to be paid. I said, no, we can fly you in. She said, but I could fly myself in. She said, I'll fly myself in, just pay me. So at that moment, I was like, no, I'm not paying her. And why does she want to be paid? Because she is trying to use that as leverage, in my opinion, to say that everything that she said on my platform that I paid her to say, that it wasn't true, so that they could discredit that interview that the feds were already looking at anyway, because that was full testimony. And so to hear that she disappeared, I'm not shocked, because like I said, she told me personally, the only reason she was sitting down with me was because Diddy cut her off financially. And you gotta understand, these women, and talking to Gina, like, beautiful girl. I don't like to say, you know, just because a person has a certain job that they may not be intelligent, right? Because I've seen people, servers at Waffle House, and when I was a manager, if a server told me they worked for Waffle House, I wouldn't give a damn if it was a 5-star restaurant. I hired them because their memory was a lot sharper than somebody coming in off the street that just wanted to serve or served in other restaurants. They just moved a lot faster. You know what I'm saying? They were just a lot more attentive. They getting coffee, they getting juice, they doing a lot of things. Whereas one server that came from another 5-star restaurant was slow as hell, just slow. So I don't like to use that, but Gina was probably talking to her intellectually was like watching paint dry.
So you just feel like you didn't have a lot of options.
No, she didn't have a lot of options. She's a beautiful girl, but like, this is, I mean, how big does it get? And like they said, Cassie had stated to one of her friends, like, she had quoted, you know, Jay-Z's taken, so where would I go? Who else would I date? Who's bigger than Jay-Z at that point in the entertainment world? And so when it comes to Gina, and like I said, Gina definitely wasn't all there, because she wanted to party when she was in Atlanta on our dime. And she asked me to watch her baby. I said, Gina.
Wow. It's interesting that something that, again, I just like to get inside to just things that I
go ahead. We're going to take a caller real quick. We're going to take a caller, but go ahead, make it quick.
Sean said something about Diddy's presence. And it is interesting because I wasn't even that far away from him, but there is something about his presence that pulls you in. I mean, even the judge seemed a bit mesmerized. I mean, at the end, he said, I've never heard a judge in a federal criminal trial. Oh, how you feeling? How you doing? You doing okay? You know, there is something about him, whether it be man or woman, that pulls you in and does make you feel a certain way. So I say that all to say that I'm not saying there's nothing to the psychology claims, like Sean says. I do think there's some psychology in there that pulls the women in. But when you look at all the evidence that showed that so much of this was consensual, when it shows that they went back so many times, I think, again, that is what's going to create reasonable doubt in this case. And if there is a hung jury, because again, we talked about this in the first half of 5, you have to have 12. It can't be 11. It has to be 12. So we got 5 charges, 2 for Cassie, 2 for Jane Doe, and 1 Rico. We got 5. We got to get 12 people on all 5. I don't see that happening. Now, let's say we get 12 on 1. He's still found guilty, but obviously he won't do as much time. And as Tasha K said, he'll probably appeal it. And so it should be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if we're going to get any more intel about the jurors, but they definitely said juror 25, the gay white 51-year-old PhD.
Because he done part, and I want to talk about the gay prodigal too, and how they get down. I know you probably ain't. I don't know. We ain't gonna assume, but like the 51-year-old white male that's a gay man, that's juror, is having issues with the intent to distribute sex party versus sex party. You know what I'm saying? Consensual versus consensual. We're gonna take a viewer's call right quick. Who's waiting? Kiki, what's your sorry, where you calling from, Kiki?
Hey, I'm calling from Florida.
Okay, shout out to Florida. Okay. What do you want to say? You wanna give comment? You wanna give a comment or you wanna ask a question?
I want to give a comment.
Okay.
I'm reading the chat, right? The comments in the chat, and I don't think that people realize how karma works, how reaping what you sow works. Like at the end of the day, from the naked eye looking at this case, it does look weak unless you literally go into the legalities of it and see, okay, if you piece this with that, then I see how they can get to that. But if you look beyond what's going on now, saying that the case is weak, before this trial started, the internet was in an uproar. Oh, he did this to rest in peace Pac and Biggie and Kim Porter, which we don't know, we're not there. However, if he did what we assume he did, we don't get to choose when we pay or how we pay. But what we put out there, 90% of the time we get it back. This case, so
you're saying this is a spiritual war, pretty much.
I mean, to me it is. I'm not religious by far. I've lived, but I'm very spiritual. And I believe, like, I've seen some people do the worst things in life, go through 20, 30 years later. One little mistake can change your whole life. So even if we want to say this case is weak, I mean, it can be. But do you really think that lady from the club who got her face separated by a hot leg care if Jane Doe wanted to do a freak off? That woman don't care. She want them to get him regardless of how they get him. She want him done. Like, I'm quite sure Cassie mama don't care whether or not he hung somebody over a balcony. You turned my daughter into a hooker. So I want you gone. Like, I don't care if you did what they're accusing you of now. If you did what people assume you did, then yeah, you're going to have to pay one way or the other. It may not seem right because, hey, he didn't do this. This wasn't so bad. Like the last caller say, well, just passing the blunt can't be distributing. Well, sir, put the dope down. Then you won't even have to worry about it. But at the end of the day, in the eyes of the law, you're going to jail if you get caught. Like, it may seem small. However, you have to think about what you put out there. Eventually, you will have to pay for that.
Thank you so much, Kiki. And yes, that is another spiritual factor that we do have to factor in, is that the universe only understands what you give it, and what you give it is going to definitely give back. So what you ask for. And so I do know if he does get off, he's going to have probably one of the biggest brand endorsements with baby oil, with Johnson & Johnson. They are definitely going to capitalize off of this, and he's probably going to throw the biggest party ever out of the country. Diddy party, and a lot of people are going to be paying a lot of money to go slide in baby oil pools. It's going to happen. Okay, we got another caller real quick. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Fax. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? And where you calling from?
I'm calling from Texas.
Okay, shout out to Texas. What do you want to? What thoughts do you want to give on this trial? Do you think he's gonna get time, or you think he's gonna get off?
I don't think that the case is strong enough. I mean, he's been painted a picture in the media, and we all believe that he should be under the jail for the things that the media has been displaying about him. A lot of people have been saying that he's been sex trafficking children. They saw children at the parties. They're going on interviews talking about their children, but none of this is coming up in the trial. Where are all these people? Why weren't they called as witnesses in regards to sex trafficking? Because that would be clear, that he was sex trafficking. There's children, they're involved in sex acts. I mean, I'm not seeing it. I feel as though the case is weak. They didn't provide enough evidence to prove that this man is trafficking anyone. I mean, from what I'm hearing, these are people that are escorts. They do this for a living, with or without Diddy. So he's paying people to do what they actually do. So I don't see how it's sex trafficking at all. I don't
Okay.
understand how any of the things that they're saying in regards to Rico, it's just weird. So now I'm starting to believe, rather than, I mean, yeah, he's a monster for doing all the things he did to this woman, but again, she kept going back and going back and going back and going back. At some point, we have to look at it for what it is. These people were just involving themselves in a nasty person. Now, should he be convicted for the rest of his life for it? I don't think so, because
Okay.
I'm not seeing where they've proven it.
I did want to make a clarifying point, though.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate you. But go ahead, Jay Carter. Jasmine, you got that? Okay, coming up. Okay, so go ahead, Jay.
just really quickly, because I have about 2 more minutes. The sex trafficking actually doesn't relate to the escorts. Like she said, the escorts, they do this for a living, right?
Okay.
The sex trafficking charge is as it relates to Cassie and Jane Doe.
Okay.
The escorts is for that third charge, which is the transportation of prostitution. So look at them separately. They're not saying the escorts were sex trafficking, but they're saying that the escorts should not have been flown across state lines for sex services.
Okay. All right. So a good point. Sean, how do you want to respond to what she just said? Because I know you want to see his ass under the jail. You want him to get life, don't you?
I do. I absolutely feel like, again, I wish the prosecution would have had a stronger case. I do think that they have enough for the jury to convict him on some of the charges. I just don't think it's going to be a slam dunk with all of the charges getting a full conviction. I do not feel that way. But I did want to watch Jay Carter say before she leaves. Earlier, the question was asked, like, Diddy getting on the stand, good idea, bad idea. In my opinion, I feel like it was a great idea in for Diddy's defense team to not let him get up there, because if this is retried or anything like that, they already know the prosecution's defense. They already know what they're coming with. But when it comes to the defense, they have no idea how the defense team is going to come. And also with him not bringing any character witnesses and whatnot, if it did come to, or they have to do the trial all over again, then they could do all of that then. And that would throw the prosecution off, because they have really no idea how Diddy's defense team would come. So I think overall, win, lose, or draw, it was good for Diddy's defense team to not let him get up there, like regardless of him further incriminating himself or saying the wrong thing or anything like that. I think that was the least of their worries. It was more so if this don't go our way, we at least need the best defense prepared for when we go after them again, for whether we're appealing this or whatever. So I know the verdict is not in for the people that are saying that that's more trolling. And then two, with the going back and with the women that were a part of these FOs and stuff like that, going back. Now, to us, a lot of us can see that it probably did, again, no doctor, stem towards a trauma. Not all of the women were going back to Diddy simply because of his money. It's his presence alone is hypnotizing. So a lot of them were going back for many reasons. Do I think that money was the main one? Yes, 100%. Because what is all of this for? What is the repetitive coming back and forth, knowing what type of treatment that you're about to endure and whatnot, but you will endure it. So you're getting something out of this beyond just being around him, beyond being in a nice home or on a vacation or something like that. There's more to it. Why this keeps getting brought up is because, again, the jury does not follow these stories how we follow these stories in the public. So when they're hearing that these women are going back and back and back and back, they're going to be thinking in their mind, like, okay, well, why did you go back? And they're not going to sit there and think like, oh, Stockholm syndrome, and oh, well, they probably did. They don't know the background of these women. They don't know how long Cassie and what she endured and how he did basically groom her into becoming a madam, because in my eyes, that's what Cassie was. Cassie was a beautiful, glorified madam. That's that simple. Now, do I think that was her intention? No, I do think that Diddy transformed her into that and transformed her into the mouthpiece. Like, I look at Diddy like Nino Brown from the movie New Jack City. He made all of these things were going on, but he made sure that he wasn't touching them. So when all of the drug deals and all of that stuff was happening with Nino, they can never catch him because he always had other people doing these things for him, which would bring in Rico, the assistants and people that worked at his clubs and the apartment buildings and stuff that he owned. They were doing a lot of illegal things. Now, those people, you can't convince me that when the raids were happening, them bagging up stuff, what you're doing is illegal. You know what you're doing is wrong. Whether it's in an apartment building, a convenience store, all of this is wrong. But in Diddy's case, with the racketeering charges and the RICO charges, his employees, it's easy for them to say they did not know what was going on, that they did not know that this classifies as a crime, that this is a federal crime that they are committing when their boss is telling them to book a hotel room, when their boss is telling them to make sure that there's candles. And like, how can you and I don't think that the prosecution did a good job in differentiating the two, so that we can see, caught red-handed, that you knew, Christina, that this was happening. The only one that did was Cassie. Cassie knew that this was criminal and the things that she was doing. Diddy could have did it himself. He could have found people himself. He made sure Cassie did everything. That's why I feel that Diddy should go down these charges, because he did know that he was running a criminal enterprise. He just had his employees in the dark. So a lot of them were in the dark. But I do things like Christina, I think she knew what was going on.
Of course, Christina knew. Of course. But if my boss asked me to do that shit and he paying me $200,000-$300,000 a year, what do you need? What time do you want me to slip and slide on the baby oil into the room? Okay. Right. Seriously, that's a part of what I'm supposed to do, is serve my boss, and I'm serving my boss. Jay Carter, do you have to go?
Yes, I have to go, but I wanted to just thank you, Tasha, for doing your own live coverage of this. I do consider you now one of the big media resources. Like I said, you may have started very small, but the fact that they are always taking your stuff, quoting your stuff, repurposing your stuff. Yes, you have made it. We appreciate what you do with your edutainment, as I call it. Yes. As I said before, right now I'm a law professor. I host the Black Lawyers Podcast. If you guys are looking for an attorney, you can go to theblacklawyers.com, the Black Lawyers Podcast. We have a free directory so that you can look for an attorney. We have a podcast where we bring on lawyers, judges, celebrity advocates in the law. So please check us out. I'll definitely make sure your team knows my schedule for tomorrow, so I can maybe plug in a little bit tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm back and forth between New York and DC because you just never know when it's going to drop. But definitely, I will stay tuned in for your winos for sure.
I appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. As we're watching the jury, shout out to Jay Carter at the Black Lawyers Podcast. We will definitely be in contact. Stay right there, Sean. We're going to load up some of the footage from the male sex workers that we interviewed, okay?